Welcome to Trending Update USA. I'm Stefan, and today we're asking a bigger question than just rankings. Are we witnessing a real shift in power at the very top of women's tennis? Or is this just another moment in an already unpredictable era? Because what just happened between Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek is not just about numbers on a list. It's about momentum, pressure, identity, and what it means to stay on top when the entire world is watching your every move. And right in the middle of it all, holding firm and quietly building her own story, is Coco Gauff at World No.3. So let's take a step back and understand what actually happened. In simple terms, Aryna Sabalenka has surged in the rankings, shaking up the established order that Iga Świątek has dominated for quite some time. This wasn't just a minor adjustment, it reflects a deeper shift in form, consistency, and confidence. Meanwhile, Coco Gauff remains steady at number 3, which might not sound dramatic, but in a volatile rankings environment, stability itself is a powerful statement. Now here's where things get interesting. Rankings in tennis are often misunderstood. They look like a scoreboard, but they're really a reflection of long-term pressure management. Every point represents weeks of travel, physical stress, emotional ups and downs, and constant scrutiny. So when Sabalenka climbs and Świątek slips, it's not just about who won more matches recently, it's about who is handling the weight of expectations better in this moment. Aryna Sabalenka's rise says something very specific. It tells us that she has found a way to channel her aggressive playing style into something more controlled and repeatable. In the past, her biggest challenge wasn't talent, it was emotional balance. She could dominate one match and unravel in the next. But now, there's a visible maturity in how she approaches big moments. She's not just hitting harder, she's thinking clearer. And that's a dangerous combination. On the other side, Iga Świątek's situation is more complex. She's been the face of consistency in women's tennis, someone who built her dominance on discipline, structure, and mental clarity. But staying at the top is a completely different challenge than getting there. When you're number 1, every opponent studies you, every weakness is analyzed, and every match feels like a final. So the question becomes, is Świątek declining, or is she simply experiencing the natural pressure cycle that every top athlete goes through? Because history shows us something very important. Even the greatest players, from Serena Williams to Novak Djokovic, have gone through periods where the weight of being the best starts to affect performance. Not because they lose skill, but because the mental cost of maintaining perfection becomes harder to carry. And this is where Coco Gauff's position becomes incredibly interesting. At number 3, Gauff is not just holding strong, she's learning. She's watching two of the best players in the world navigate pressure at the highest level, while quietly building her own game and identity. There's less immediate pressure on her compared to a world number 1, but enough expectation to keep her evolving. And that balance might be the most valuable position in tennis right now. Because Gauff represents something different. She's part of a generation that grew up not just with tennis, but with social media, constant visibility, and global attention from a very young age. Every win, every loss, every emotional reaction, it's all documented, shared, and discussed in real time. And that changes everything. Let's talk about the mental side for a moment. When Sabalenka steps onto the court now, she's not just playing her opponent, she's playing expectations. People expect her to be powerful, dominant, aggressive. That becomes part of her identity. And the challenge is, what happens on days when that identity doesn't align with how she's feeling? For Świątek, the mental pressure is even more subtle. She's expected to be consistent, calm, precise, almost machine-like. But she's human. And when small cracks appear, they get magnified because they don't fit the narrative people have created around her. And then there's Gauff. She's expected to be the future of tennis. The next big thing. The face of a new era. And that's a different kind of pressure altogether. One that's not about defending a position, but about fulfilling potential. Now add social media to this equation. In today's world, players don't get to process wins and losses privately. The moment a match ends, reactions flood in. Praise, criticism, analysis, memes, everything. And while fans see this as engagement, for athletes, it becomes an unavoidable layer of noise. A tough loss isn't just a tough loss anymore. It's a trending topic. A rankings drop isn't just a number change. It's a narrative. And narratives can be dangerous. Because once a narrative takes hold, like, Sabalenka is rising, or Swiatek is slipping, it starts influencing how people interpret every future performance. A close match becomes a struggle. A win becomes not convincing enough. And suddenly, athletes aren't just competing against opponents, they're competing against expectations shaped by public opinion. This is why Gauff's stability at number 3 matters so much. She's navigating all of this while still developing. She's learning how to separate her identity from her results. She's figuring out how to stay grounded in a world that constantly tries to define her. And that's not easy. Let's also consider the broader impact on the sport. Women's tennis is entering a phase where dominance is less predictable. Instead of one player controlling the narrative for years, we're seeing shifts, challenges, and new contenders emerging more frequently. And that's exciting, but it also creates uncertainty. Fans don't just follow results. They follow stories. And right now, the story is evolving. Sabalenka's rise suggests a new kind of leadership, one built on power and resilience. Swiatek's position raises questions about sustainability. How long can one maintain near-perfect consistency? Gauff's presence introduces anticipation, not just what she is now, but what she could become. And together, they create a dynamic that feels less like a hierarchy, and more like a conversation. Now here's something worth thinking about. What does it actually mean to be number 1 today? Is it about winning the most matches? Holding the most titles? Or is it about something deeper, like handling pressure, staying mentally strong, and adapting to constant change? Because in modern tennis, being number 1 is not a static achievement. It's a continuous test. And that test is becoming harder. Travel schedules are intense. Competition is deeper. Media exposure is constant. And the margin for error is smaller than ever. So when we see a rankings shake-up like this, it's not just a sports update. It's a reflection of how demanding the game has become. It's also a reminder that athletes are not fixed versions of themselves. They evolve. They struggle. They adapt. And sometimes, they surprise us. Sabalenka's current moment is a reminder that growth is possible, even after setbacks. Swiatek's situation reminds us that even the best are human. And Gauff's journey shows us that patience and consistency can be just as powerful as sudden breakthroughs. But beyond tennis, there's a bigger takeaway here. We live in a world that constantly ranks people, not just athletes, but everyone. Success is measured, compared, and displayed. And just like in tennis, those rankings can change quickly. So maybe the real lesson isn't about who is number 1, 2, or 3. Maybe it's about how individuals handle being evaluated all the time. How they deal with pressure. How they stay true to themselves in the middle of noise. Because if there's one thing this rankings shakeup shows us, it's that performance is not just physical. It's deeply mental. And increasingly, it's public. And that combination makes modern sports more fascinating, and more challenging, than ever before. As this season continues, all eyes will remain on Sabalenka, Swiatek, and Gauff. Not just to see who wins, but to understand how they respond. Because in the end, response is what defines great athletes. Not just how they rise, but how they adjust. Not just how they dominate, but how they endure. And maybe that's why this moment matters. Not because of a ranking change, but because of what it reveals about the people behind those rankings. Thanks for watching Trending Update USA. I'm Stefan, and this is a story that's still being written.